Give them a shot to do what?
Back, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in the building. We are in there like swimwear. It was a minute. It's been a minute since we had a conversation, man. I am Mike Hughes, aka the Shy Kid. You are listening to the Shy Kid podcast, only presented by Give Us a Shot Network. If you're watching this on Twitter or Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever, make sure you click the link in our bio. Give us a shot. Give us a like, a share, a follow, even maybe even a heart. I don't even know. Whatever y'all want to do, please feel free to do so. Even if you don't fuck with it, you want to unsubscribe, that's perfectly okay as well. But we'd love you to be here. We'd love the engagement. We'd love the conversation. Even if you disagree with us, we want you in the room. We want to talk to you guys. We're talking Chicago Cubs baseball tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited about it, man. The fish weren't kind to us. I was thinking maybe a sweep, maybe at worst 3 out of the 4 games. But I'll tell you this, didn't go the way I expected it to go. The Cubs split with the fish with the Miami Marlins, Tim Anderson, Jazz Chisholm Jr., who was not great whatsoever. But, you know, it is what it is. I have an announcement, though. I have an announcement for the 10 people that are in here. In 5 games, in over 38 innings, for the first time in my life, I can say I have seen a Jazz Chisholm hit. I'm just excited. I have been waiting for this guy to get a hit. I have been to 5 games of Jazz Chisholm where he did not record a hit, and he finally did it. I believe in this entire series, he only had less than 3 hits. So, you know, I was counting my bats. I was counting my at bats. I was very excited for it. Finally got one, man. Finally got one. We have so much to talk about tonight, from Shota Imanaga continuing to be the face of Chicago Cubs baseball. The shirtless boys in the bleachers that had SHOTA exclamation point Shota on a Shota Shove Day just a couple weeks ago in one of the home openers for the Cubs. I believe that was against the Rockies or the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken. He finally got them their obvious t-shirts, Shota Imanaga t-shirts, real dope. He got to meet the fans. Shota Imanaga continues to be the face of the Chicago Cubs right now. He is just number one PR person and probably the entire league. Everyone loves him. You can hear the, Chelsea Dagger song before he warms up coming out when he's walking out and he's ready to go ball out on a Shota Shove Day. But let's get into it, man. Let's have a conversation because there's so much to talk about in the Cubs split. Now, if I do sound horrible, if I sniffle, if I cough, if I sneeze, if I fart, something, the pollen is insane right now at Wrigley Field. The weather is horrible, and it's that time of the year, man. It's that time of the year where the Irish in me just goes full force. I lose my voice, so bear with me, please, if I sound horrible. But let's talk about it. Game number 1, Jamison Tyone makes his return in the Chicago Cubs uniform. The Cubs win this game 8-3. So many different storylines, from Nick Madrigal to Miguel Amaya to Cody Bellinger. But here are the top 2 takeaways from game 1 against the Miami Marlins. Jamison Tyone in his first Cubs return, 5 innings pitched, 4 Ks, 0 walks, and 1 earned run. Jamison Tyone's been solid. You know, they obviously moved Ben Brown to the bullpen, which I'm insanely not a fan of. And it's just one of those things where, we're going to continue to argue about it as the season continues, because I didn't think he should have been moved to the bullpen. But Javier Assad's been dealing. Obviously, Ben's the newest kid on the block, so they're obviously going to give him the short end of it. Well, technically Shota is, but, they obviously extend him to that deal to be a major league pitcher. So with that being said, man, Jamison Tyone coming back, strong start. Love to see it. He capitalized off a strong second half last year, obviously getting injured during spring training. But, we were really kind of curious to see how he would look in year 2, because in year 1, it was like a flip of the coin. In the first half of the year, dog water, Dookie, absolutely horrible. And then the second half of the year, he's looking like one of the better pitchers in this rotation next to Justin Steele. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for him, what this season looks like for him, because obviously next year is going to be the final year of his contract, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can quote me on that. He's a 3 or 4 year deal. But Jamison Tyone was solid in his debut for 2024. Nico Horner is the storyline of the day, though. I want to talk about Nico Horner. Nico Suave! Give him a little love. Got to talk about the kid because he's been absolutely phenomenal. He went into the Miami series very, very badly. He's batting .246 on the year going into it on April 17th. Just hasn't been great whatsoever. And defensively, he's still who he is. He's a 2023 Gold Glove winner. We saw him a little bit at shortstop in the doubleheader. We saw him at second base win a Gold Glove last year. You know you can plug him in anywhere in the infield and he's going to have success. But offensively, this is a guy who we know is going to hit over 280 every single year. So for a slow start for him, it was really worrisome for me. I didn't really know what the approach was, but in 19 at bats in the Miami series, he had 8 hits, only 2 Ks, is now batting 289. Nico Horner was absolutely phenomenal, living up to the name. Nico Suave. You love to see it. But man, I'm just happy Nico's back. Nico's feeling himself. Nico's feeling great. He's back in there like swimwear. He's doing his thing. Shout out to Nico Horner for today, taking the time out of his day. Steersville, I believe he was in, signing some autographs, taking some pictures. So I thought that was really cool as well. This is one of the captains of the team next to Dansby Swanson. So, you just love to see that. And, it's really exciting to see him get after it in the beginning of this Miami series. 2 hits, 1 run, and 1 RBI to really finish it off. Nico was great. He was absolutely phenomenal, and it's something that we want to see moving forward because he is a pillar to a championship caliber team. The home runs might not be there. He may not hit 20 home runs a year, but this is a guy that anybody in the league right now would want at second base for them, unless you have Marcus Simeon. But even then, Nico makes a case. Game number 2, Canario misreads a horrible, horrible misread is to start that conversation off the bat, but makes a very athletic play in left field. So shout out to him. This wasn't the greatest stretch for Canario ever since coming up for the injured Seiya Suzuki. But it's definitely one of those conversations that in spurts, he's looked great. We're going to talk about what he was able to do in the doubleheader with a home run, a towering home run, an absolute blast that my guy Miles and I were able to cover. We were there in person. It was a lot of fun, man. But, Alexander Canario, heavy on the strikeouts throughout this entire series. We're going to talk about that in a little while. But, he had a great catch in that game. Outside of that, Javier Assad in game number 2, he had a phenomenal day. And here's a little fun fact about Javier Assad. Since September 19th, 2023, Javier Assad has allowed 2 runs or fewer in 9 straight outings since September 2023. In this game, he pitched 4.2 innings pitched, allowed 3 hits, 1 earned run, 3 Ks, and 3 walks. Triple Bs, triple threes. You love to see it. But down the stretch, obviously, the issue with this game, there's so many different conversations we can have. And I think the biggest one for me is when we break down the lineup. Craig Counsell obviously understands it's a doubleheader today. There's multiple lineups that you have to go through to make sure that these guys aren't swamped, aren't exhausted by the end of this series heading into Houston, because Houston's one of those ones, Houston's one of those ones where you understand you could sweep Houston easy, and especially with how bad they've been lately. The toughest out is probably going to be Justin Verlander on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But we're coming down the stretch of things. No Cody Bellinger, no Michael Busch. It's just not a great lineup whatsoever. But the Cubs are still doing it. The Cubs are still in this. We are up, ladies and gentlemen. It is 2-1, and the Cubs are up. Here comes Adbert Alzolay. Another blown save. This is his 4th blown save and 7 potential saves thus far this season. And he gives up a 2-run blast to Brian De La Cruz, in the top of the 9th. It's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. It's one of those things where, you want the best for him because he's such a likable guy. He's such a great player and a great asset to this team. One of the best closers in baseball last season. Now, was that a fluke? Was it just a bad start to this year? I don't know. There's a lot of questions right now, and Craig Counsell kind of was very, like I continue to iterate my wording right. He continues to express that throughout spring training that he wasn't automatically going to give it to Adbert. And I think a consensus on that is mainly because you understand that this isn't typically what you see out of a closer. High velocity, a guy who's going to go out there and just 1, 2, 3, knock him down. You know what I mean? Adbert's not really that guy. Adbert is great in stints. He has a great slide. He has great transition, great motion through the ball. I love what he does. Obviously he's not Kyle Hendricks. You know what I mean? He's topping over 90 miles per hour. So, he's definitely doing it, but 4 blown saves and 7 attempts. I mean, it comes to a point to where, you're afraid to put the guy out there. And I know it was against the Rangers and the Diamondbacks and now the Marlins, but you know what I mean? Like, how many times are we going to have these conversations? You know what I mean? The Dodgers, he didn't look great either. So, we lose game 2. in the doubleheader. Let's play two. Ernie Banks, shout out to him, Mr. Cub himself. We lose 3-2 in game number 2, but game number 3 was really the conversation for the day. That was the record books. Now, before we start this, I want to take a moment. I want to take a moment to shout out a former Southside legend, Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson, who is frustrated with Cubs fans, should be frustrated with himself. I mean, the man can barely hit his weight. Nick Madrigal had more home runs last year than Tim Anderson did. Here's the problem with Tim Anderson. He gets frustrated after Shota Imanaga is shoving the lights out the ball on a show-to-shove day, in a night game. And here's Tim Anderson telling Cubs fans to go fuck themselves. I mean, it's wild to me that we're even having this conversation. Here he is right there. He says, I mean, like, what are we talking about? I mean, he turns around, he looks at the fans, and he says, "Fuck y'all!" Like, hey, fuck you, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, get out of here, bro. Like, it's the crybaby drama shit, man. I'm so over it, and that's exactly why you were asked to mentor Jazz Chisholm Jr., another guy who's always yapping about something. And I love Jazz. But it's like, hey, I want everybody in the comments. Let me know. Do you ever look at Jazz Chisholm and say you're that guy? You are the one. You are him. You are the cover of the show. You are the guy who's going to lead Miami to the promised land. Or are you just the best fish in a barrel of shit? Let me know. Now, I will say this to Jazz's credit. Yeah, I completely agree with him on the stance of Miguel Rojas. But when these guys sit up here, man, and they act like their shit don't stink, man, you smell like the fishes and you look like one too. I don't want to hear none of this, bro, because you're swinging at it like a swordfish. I mean, like bench warmer style. Like, you got to knock it off. I'm looking at it for what it is, and I'm gonna tell myself this: Tim Anderson telling Cubs fans to go fuck themselves is probably the funniest thing that has happened at Wrigley Field in the last 2 years. I'll tell you what. I mean, it felt amazing. It felt great to see that, especially because we got the dub out of it too. How much better could you get? Now, in game 1, Nico Horner has 2 hits on the day. Here he comes, game 3. He's great, yet again defensively. He just was exactly what we needed him to be. Now, Cody Bellinger has a huge bomb to start the first, a huge belly bomb in the first inning. Alexander Canario, who has been striking out all series long, comes up with a towering home run blast later in the game. Shota Imanaga, who hasn't allowed a run in 18 and 1/3 innings pitched. I mean, that's Cubs history right there. That is almost MLB history right there. In this game, he finally allows 2 earned runs, 6 innings pitched, 5 Ks, 0 walks, 2 earned runs, and 5 hits allowed. He's phenomenal, and Michael Busch continues to stay hot. 2 RBI day off 2 hits. He was great. This team, what they've been able to do and how they're able to capitalize on so many different things, whether it's contact, whether it's creating ground balls, creating turnovers, just being the best versions of themselves and then hitting absolute monster dingers. I mean, these guys get after it. I love this team. In the Arizona series, we had a lot of questions and we didn't know what this team could look like throughout an entire 162 game fold. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Appreciate everybody tuning in right now. Matthew, Valerie, everybody else, appreciate you guys being here. Game number 4, I was there yesterday. It just wasn't, it's getting to the point to where every Kyle Hendricks Professor Bump day, I'm just expecting a loss. And that's really where I am with it. Kyle Hendricks, 4.0 innings pitched, 0 walks, which is progress, 4 Ks, which is progress, 4 earned runs, though, and 4 innings pitched off 6 hits. He wasn't great whatsoever. Now, Nico Horner had himself a day, 3 hits, 2 RBIs, and great defense. That was great. Aber Alzolay came into the 8th inning, and he 1, 2, 3, got off the side. So, that's great. But you know what I mean? Like, you can't have a save if you don't have a lead. You know what I mean? So that's what it comes down to. Keegan Thompson finished off the game for the Cubs, so that was cool. Saw Keegan. The stash himself was out there, wheeling and dealing. And shout out Ronald Acuna Jr. because later that night he down 60 points in my fantasy baseball team. The night before, talking to my boy Miles Porter about this at the game. I'm down 60. Somehow my team rallied, and it was Ronald Acuna Jr. versus Matt Olson and Corey Seager. Shout out Matt Olson for K'ing 4 times in this game. You'll love to see it. You'll love to see it. But really, that's where we're at. That's the conversation we're having right now. I'm more excited about my fantasy team right now than I am when Kyle Hendricks is on the mound. He's been horrible. So that leads us with our next topic: the good, the bad, and the ugly let's get into it. The good for the Chicago Cubs out of the Miami Marlins series. Nico Suave. Nico Horner wheeling and dealing, doing his thing. 19 ABs, only had 2 Ks and 8 hits. He is now batting 289 on the year. He was batting 246 going into this series on April 18th. So shout out to him. Finally figured out his groove, finally figured out who he needed to be. You love to see it because he is a pillar of this offense. He is somebody that we need to be the best versions of themselves. Next up, we're going to have the bad. The bad is Kyle Hendricks. A 12 ERA, not great whatsoever. He has given up 28 earned runs in 5 appearances so far this year. 16 strikeouts in 5 games, which isn't horrible for Kyle, but 21 innings pitched, 28 earned runs. He has been horrible. He has been a team cancer. So he is the bad for the Chicago Cubs. And the ugly, it was a toss-up between him and Kyle, but 4 blown saves in the last 7 attempts with a 4.09 ERA. Adbert Alzolay cannot keep the ball in the ballpark. He's given up home runs left and right. He just hasn't been great whatsoever. And why I gave him the ugly is because, the bad is Kyle Hendricks, because Kyle Hendricks has just been bad, but it's a 1-year deal. We understand he's not going to be on the team going in the next year, more than likely. Adbert going into this year was viewed to be the closer of the Chicago Cubs, and things have looked horrible, horrendous. So got to give it to him. And then I made an extra. I made an extra for all you guys. I'm going to play the clip one more time. Here's the super ugly and Tim Anderson telling Cubs fans to go fuck themselves. That's insane. We're going to play it one more time. Play the clip. Oh, man. Come on, Timmy. Come on, Timmy. You're better than that. You're better than that. Come on. You can't be that mad that Nick Madrigal is better than you offensively. I mean, I would be too, but crazy. Crazy. With that being said, man, we got the Houston series coming up tomorrow. I'm excited to see what the future holds. Justin Steele was throwing live BP during the doubleheader, which was great to see. He's back at it. He looks great. Hopefully we'll get to see him at some point in late April to early May. I'm excited to get him a part of the rotation, the man of steel himself, the Mississippi fastball. You have been missed. And if we have a real conversation here, if Kyle Hendricks continues to struggle when Justin Steele comes back, I'm not taking down Javier Assad. So Kyle's either going to have to end up playing for the Des Moines, Iowa Cubs, or you're going to have to get DFA'd, brother. But with that being said, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate everybody being here. We got some interviews coming up in the next couple of days, so make sure you hit that follow button if you haven't already. We'll be talking to Ben Brown in a couple of weeks, talking about his first experience at Wrigley Field, his first strikeout being against Chris Bryant in Wrigley Field. Super dope. World Series champ, MVP, Rookie of the Year. Way to have a start to your career, kid. And then after that, we're going to be talking to Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're interviewing them Tuesday and Wednesday, so definitely tune into that. Share it out. Share it to your people. We are going to be in there like swimwear. Until then, make sure you give us a shot. Give us a like, a follow, a subscribe on Give Us a Shot Network. You can find that in the link in our bio, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, everywhere around the moon and sun. You can find us. So give us a shot. Until then, this is Mike Hughes, a.k.a. The Shy Kid. You are listening to The Shy Kid Podcast presented by Give Us a Shot Network. Until next time, go Cubs. Peace.